Another week is here again, all thanks to God. Glad having you all in this talk show, Vivid View. I am Ahilis, your host. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
Ahilis Corner. Health, happiness, and prosperity begin as a state of mind. Say something, somebody.
Health, happiness, and prosperity begins as a state of mind. It's just saying it begins with a mindset. If you want to be happy, you have to be intentional about it. If you want to be wealthy, you have to be intentional about it. It has to start from your mind. From you thinking, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can be what I want to be. That's
Good.
it.
From my own point of view, most Mark David, I believe that it is all about issue of the mind, things that comes from your mind that portrays the kind of person people see you to be. If you want to be happy, if you want to be smiling, if you want to be healthy, it is something you have already programmed from within you. It does not take an entertainer or people around you to make you smile or make you happy. If you have it inside you, then it can be felt outwardly. Thank you.
My name is Bukola. From my own point of view, there's a part in the word of God that says that as a man thinketh, so he is. So the two basic words, happiness, prosperity, and health, has to do with you being positive minded. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you tend to see some things that will make you not to be positive minded, that will make you not to be happy, but you have to make sure that your heart is apportioned to being positive minded. When you are positive minded, regardless of the circumstances and situation, you see yourself being happy inwardly. So that's my point of view about it.
My name is Moses Nwosu. Health, happiness, and prosperity begins at a state of mind. From my own opinion, I would say that it is something that you accept within yourself. I'll draw a story from the Bible when the Israelites were talking that their enemies, that they were seeing themselves as ants in their own eyes. So what do you see yourself as? What do you accept yourself regardless of your situations? Everybody have issues to settle, but if you believe that those things are greater than you, somebody said, do not tell God, look at my problem, but tell the problem, look, I have a big God. So it is what you accept happens for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really impressed with the answers from the audience. I would like to, join the other one that quoted Bible that says, as a man thinketh, so he is in his heart. So anything we are today is actually the mind. If you say you are sick, you really be sick. If you say you are rich, you'll be rich. The Bible also says, let the weak say I'm strong, and let also the poor say I'm rich. So it's the mind, and I want you from today to think positively about your life. As young men and women growing up, think positively about your life, and so you will have it. So don't always think, oh, sickness has come. Oh, no. There's a story that had it that a young man was, a doctor mistakenly told the young guy that he has HIV after the blood test. And the moment the boy started dying, before the second week, he cannot even move his leg again. And the same doctor came and said, I'm so sorry. The result was wrong. It's not yours. Your own report, you're nothing like that. You're okay. He said, what do you say? He said, you're okay now. And the same man that had been begging to eat jumped up immediately. Where the strength came from, we don't know. It is the state of the mind. For the fact that it's no longer HIV, as earlier pronounced, make him healthy instantly because the mind accepted it. So please accept it. Even if you are sick, tell your mind, this sickness must go. It's a stranger, and so shall it be. Thank you so much. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
Frankly speaking, knowledge is power, and we as a people should go for it in order to be fully abreast of any, challenge in life. Having said this, the topic for today's discussion is health implication of Lassa Fever. We'll take a break now. When we come back, the guests will be introduced. Please stay tuned. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, the topic again is the health implication of Lassa Fever. And with me in the studio is a medical personnel. Let's make welcome Dr. Folashade Olugbemi Paul.
Vivid View.
Say and do it.
Before discussion proper, please follow us on social media handles are displayed on the screen, please. All right, welcome again, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, brief perspective or introduction on the subject matter.
Okay, Lassa fever is one of the infectious diseases that are currently of global significance, and in our environment in Nigeria, and actually in the whole of West Africa, from places like Sierra Leone, Guinea, it's an infection that is actually carried by the common African rat. They call it the Mastomys rodent. It's a very common rat. It's prevalent in most parts of West Africa and all the neighboring countries, and a lot of people eat it, and not just do they eat it, it's also present in their environments where they live, and so it goes into their food and it can drop feces there or its urine, and those things that come from the rats, both the rat as a whole, when it is being eaten, when they're preparing it or when they're consuming it, and it's the bodily fluids of the rat can actually infect the food of people, and it's that interaction between people and the rat that can actually lead to human beings getting that Lassa infection. And that's how it is really spread. It's a viral hemorrhagic fever, similar in some ways to Ebola, and it causes bleeding, and it's very significant, and it can lead to death.
So this small rat again is one causing this.
It's the virus that is in the rat, not the rat itself that is causing it. But yeah,
that's true. Okay. We may wish to know the likely causes of it, maybe part of what you have just mentioned now.
Yes.
And then how do you prevent it as well?
So, when you already know the vector of an infection, which in this case is the rat, it's easier to prevent it. Some things can cause somebody to be in more proximity to the rat, low socioeconomic background, the poorer communities. You can have places where food is stored but not stored properly, areas that are closer to bush, so places that are not very clean, things like that. If you can improve your environment, for example, it will limit your exposure to the rats, and by limiting your exposure to those common African rats, then you limit the interaction of your own food with their own body fluids, and that way you can actually avoid it. But not only is this spread from the African rat, there's also a person-to-person contact of Lassa fever. Wow. It's highly infectious between people. So while that is the vector, it's also transmitted by interaction between people. And so if you do see somebody having some of the symptoms, unfortunately in this environment, a lot of people term everything malaria, typhoid,
exactly.
And that is not so. Cough, catarrh, for example, are not signs of malaria.
And they will go for self-medication.
Yes, they go for self-medication, or they just say, oh, it will go. Especially because a lot of people can be asymptomatic, not really have symptoms, or just have very mild to moderate symptoms like sore throat, body pain, things that they typically might dismiss. And in dismissing it, most people would be fine at the end of the day, but in some people, up to 20% of the people that are infected can actually have more serious infections. So about 3 weeks or so after you've had contact with the virus, it can then lead to the actual disease. And in a lot of people, it's just feel like you have catarrh, cough, it might just feel mild, like your body's paining you, things like that. But in at least 1% of those 15-20% of people that actually end up needing medical care can actually die. 1% sounds like a small number, but that's about 5,000 people. Yeah, and that's a very significant disease burden, yes. In this environment. And so it's just easier, better to prevent it and to be more aware. So it requires a high index of suspicion. You need to be more aware. In advancing disease, when somebody is going to have more symptomatic disease, some of the things that you can see would be, after the initial sore throat, fever, body pain and things like that, you might then have the person coming down with bleeding from the eyes or the gum. So it's a viral hemorrhagic fever, virus bleeding fever. That's really what it is. So that's why I said in some ways it's kind of similar to Ebola, though the vector in Ebola is the bat. So if you know that you have all those rats in the environment, or there's a high index of suspicion, or somebody has been ill with something similar, you really should isolate yourself and get yourself to medical care as urgently as possible.
Yeah. Like you mentioned that some people that suffer, you may not know, they think it's malaria, but I also know that, or you can also correct us that sometimes if you have malaria, you have blisters, by the gum, by your mouth and all that. Is it part of it also?
I'm glad that you're mentioning that malaria doesn't cause blisters.
So what causes that?
That's herpes.
You see, and we'll just say that it's
That's
malaria.
another viral thing. So typically what happens is that the person's immunity is down, the person's body is kind of down, busy dealing with something else. So one small thing that your body has been able to suppress will then get reactivated, and then the sores come out. So the sores are only associated, and the sores themselves, it's an infection, it's a viral infection too. And that's the thing about viruses. They're really very difficult to treat, very difficult to kill.
Wow.
I mean, we've been struggling to treat and cure things like HIV for a really long time now. And, you know, Ebola and COVID and all of those viruses that we know of, they're really very difficult to treat. So that's not what causes malaria.
But in some other areas, you know, you find young ones going hunting for these rats, you know, especially the one we call bush rat. We have bush rat, we have rats in the homes and all that. They go hunting for it.
Yes.
So they can also be exposed by doing that.
Very true. Most definitely. The preparation, the cleaning up of that rat, trying to clean it for and make it edible, trying to prepare it for a meal is one of the points at which people can actually get infected with it. One interesting thing about this infection is the fact that unlike, you know, one of the complications of it that might not even require you being very seriously sick to the point of the bleeding and the fever is hearing loss. So it is one of the causes of hearing loss. Hearing loss is one of the complications of Lassa fever that, you know, doesn't even require the disease being very serious and very advanced for you to see it. So if you have anybody around you too that alongside having mild prodromal symptoms, those, you know, headache, fever, sore throat, whatever, and then the person is now complaining about their ear, or you're having to shout too much
before you now hear.
Maybe you should go get checked. For it.
All right, thank you so much. One of the reasons why I ask this question, like we usually say, prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
So that when you know how to run away from certain things, you'll be able to, you know, to take care of it. Now we'll take a break now. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
All right, welcome back. Still treating the health implication of Lassa fever. Is there a difference between Lassa fever and monkeypox that broke out recently?
Yes, there's a lot of differences between them, other than the fact that they are both infectious diseases of high importance that are both spread by viruses that we are all talking about. Ebola is more similar to Lassa fever in that they are like yellow fever, they are viral hemorrhagic fevers. Monkeypox is a pox problem. So it really, what you find is those things, those bumps and stuff that look like pimples or rashes. And the symptoms though can be similar in the beginning to the flu-like symptoms, those malaria-like, that we like to call malaria-like signs and symptoms, like headache, body pain. But you also get a rash. And in monkeypox, the infection is very closely linked to sexual intimacy. So you can find the rash around the genitals, and you can also find it around the face, the chest. So areas where, you know, person-to-person contact would have occurred. And so you can find the rash or the bumps and stuff. A lot of people might not really.
But how deadly is that one, that monkeypox? How deadly is it too?
Well, for the people that it will be deadly for, the problem is they don't have cures. They don't have, so it's really difficult to treat something. So we can just support the body through and hope the person makes it for the most part. Lassa fever does have ribavirin, and, you know, but it's rare, expensive and stuff. And then monkeypox has some other, you know, medications too. So it's just easier to prevent them, really.
But we don't have it much in Nigeria, just for us to just discuss it.
There are no vaccines that can prevent it. That's the issue. There's, you know, so it's really hard to you know, treat, and then the prevention is also kind of tricky, and that's why the best thing that you can do is just work at disseminating the information, such as we're doing here, that this is what you need to look out for, and this is what you need to see and be aware of. If somebody has the rash, the symptoms for monkeypox, for example, tend to come about 4 days after the onset of the rash, about 3 weeks after the onset of after the point of infection. So it's really just to be safe out there. Even COVID is not done with people yet, so to continue to put up your masks in places where you can, you know, have your social distancing, and continue to just be careful with your hand hygiene and don't touch people.
See, use your hand sanitizers. You know.
So things that you share between people, you know, just make sure that you're disinfecting surfaces, you're disinfecting items that are being shared with people, or just getting personalized things if you can.
I think this next question, now you've already answered it. When I asked what is the symptoms, of this fever.
We and what see it again so that people are very aware.
Okay, so I'll ask you again. That's okay. So how does human contact Lassa fever?
From
what are the symptoms
from each other? So there are seasonal variations, to how endemic and how we all know the word pandemic now, something that is happening and it's plenty, and we're all talking about it. So endemic means it's plenty. It is plenty here, like it occurs a lot. It occurs commonly here. So Lassa fever is endemic. I mean, the disease is actually named after a town in Benue.
Yeah.
So it's very endemic here. So we see it seasonally. I think it was since the 50s, 1950s, thereabout. People have been talking about it. And in 1969, if I'm not wrong, that's when we first isolated for a confirmed case of it. So it's been here for a while, and it has seasonal. So when you see those seasonal changes occurring, and the rats are getting closer to human settlements, they're coming closer to the house because maybe there's a drought or there's too much flooding outside, and so they're looking for shelter. So you get them more, invading your own space in your house, and that makes it much easier for you for your food, for the rats to come in contact with your food, or for people to also be hungry enough to go eat the rat if there's like a famine or something. So
yes,
things like that.
Yeah, they do. They eat
people do eat rats. I mean,
I said they hunt for it. They hunt for it.
That's a delicacy.
Yeah.
Bush meat is a delicacy for a lot of our tribes.
Yeah.
Let's not be bougie now. So it's common for people to eat it, and the rats are common in our environment. So it's not unusual for them to invade your food spaces, and that's how people get to contact it. And then there's the person-to-person spread. So when people are sick. And
one of the ways to also prevent it is ensure your food is properly covered.
Yes, don't leave them in nylons. Yes. Put them in plastics that have good covers that can really lock. Things like that will make it difficult for any organisms really to get into your food. Yeah, and don't eat meat that you're not sure of the source.
I will help her to amplify that. I said, don't eat meat, you're not sure of the source. All right, thank you. We'll take a break now. Vivid View.
Sing and do it.
Welcome back. We're still discussing the implication of Lassa fever. And my last question to you before we hand over to the audience is, from this end, Lassa fever, is it curable and how?
Curable. Well, so here's the thing. Well, it's so much easier.
It may not be curable, but it could be preventable.
So it's preventable. Yeah. If you do have people that are sick in your environment, try not to self-medicate. Go to the hospital and get somebody to take a look at you. In addition to that, keep your food safe and all that, because the medications to treat some of these things are really difficult to come by. Right. You have to go to maybe Irua.
Can you imagine?
And that's like in Edo State, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it's in Edo State.
Yes, to go to the hospital.
The general hospital.
Either that or you're going to infectious disease hospital looking for a virologist. It's just better to not get these infections, because ribavirin, I don't even know where to find it. If you can find it easily. So there's a medication to treat Lassa fever, yes, but it works best when the infection is detected early. So in that phase where it's not even very serious, so it typically serves best when it's contact tracing. Maybe one person is already diagnosed by ELISA or PCR, and then you can start saying, okay, who have you been in contact with recently? And those people are still.
Can the person diagnosed be isolated? Like we isolated some during COVID?
Yes. So
since you say it's contagious.
Yes. So you can actually be, kept separate from other people and treated in a room separate from other people. So it's easier. And then the people that come to treat you, the medical professionals, so will have to be in their personal protective equipment. So they would have to put on all of that gear.
So this something we have discussed is not a joke.
It's not a joke.
And when Kevin came, everybody, but even this Lassa fever is also
not a joke.
Dangerous.
So while they might not have the mastomys rodents in America or something, the world is a global village. If countries and communities need to stop acting as if when something affects or starts here, it belongs to only here. This COVID did not start in Africa.
Of course.
fortunately, we didn't have very, very bad death rates, even though, I mean, every life loss is a life. It's somebody's family member and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just better.
Because that interaction is there now, movement from one corner to the other.
It's not just an African thing anymore. It's not just a Lassa town thing. It's not just a Guinea thing or a Sierra Leone thing or a Nigerian thing. Because we all travel. The world is now a global village. Yes, so every disease of high importance should be important to everybody and every culture. We should all work together to prevent it.
All right, thank you so much. We'll take a break now and then we'll come back to question and answer session. Vivid View.
Say and do it.
My name is Bukola. I would like to confirm from the doctor about prevention when the vector, which is the rat, when the rat eats part of our food, especially line-lawned food. Is it advisable for us when we're cooking and we have the mindset that, okay, since we've cooked this food on a higher heat, then the virus is not in the food? Or probably when we salt the food, probably mostly like dry fish, when we have dry fish at home and the vector eats part of the dry fish and we say, okay, I will salt it, then the virus will die. Is it something that is advisable for us to do? Or probably when we eat the food at which the rat has eaten, then we take hot water or salt water, then we feel like, okay, yes, there's no virus again. Thank you.
I'm Ovian Joy. What are the proof to show that Lassa fever is real?
Welcome back. The audience have asked their questions. I'll direct them to our guests. What are the answers, please?
Okay. I like your questions. They're very good questions. The first question was about when the rat eats your food and what to do. Should you still eat it? You boil it? I know that it's really difficult to tell people.
Should you cut off that portion and
I know it's really difficult to tell people to just straight away. But let's think about it. Our gari, rice, they are all sold in bags, right?
Yes.
In the normal woven bags. Even if the rat ate this part of your bag of rice and you scoop out that part, do you know if the rat has peed on the bag and the pee has seeped into your bag of rice or your bag of gari? Which is why, earlier I said it's better to store these things in plastic containers, bigger containers, or in aluminum containers, really, that can be properly covered. You understand? That's the only way to avoid, because you really, especially for things like gari that you really cannot even boil. If you want to soak gari with granite now,
I use plastic bucket that has a cover.
Yeah, okay. You can use anything that has a cover, but with something like gari that you can't cook before you drink it, you're just putting normal water. You're literally just taking it in that form, and viruses can live a really long time outside of the host. So you're not safe eating that. For things that you can cook, for example, you could, if you want to gamble or if you're going to cook it for a protracted period, but it's really just safer to discard that thing and ensure that your area is safe. That's the advice I can give you. Discard what is eaten by a rodent. Don't try to eat it, or just break away that small part and